Subscribe to Cheating Tales Lab. Now let's begin. The snow fell heavy that December morning when Vince Raymond first realized his marriage was built on quicksand. He stood in the kitchen of the small house he'd bought 3 years ago, watching his wife Deanna scroll through her phone with that familiar, distant expression. Their son Jacob, barely 5 years old, sat at the table drawing stick figures with crayons. "Your mother called again," Vince said, pouring coffee. "She wants us there by noon tomorrow for Christmas Eve." Deanna didn't look up. "We'll be there. Jake's still getting over that cold. Maybe we should." "We'll be there, Vince." Her tone left no room for discussion. Vince had met Deanna Parks 7 years ago at a community college where he'd been finishing his engineering degree while working nights at a manufacturing plant. She was beautiful, confident, and came from what she called a real family, something Vince, raised by a single father who died when he was 19, had never really known. Her mother Beatrice ran the Parks household like a general. Her father Harold nodded along to whatever Beatrice decreed, and her siblings Kim and Chester orbited around their mother's approval like planets around a dying star. The warning signs had been there. The way Deanna would parrot her mother's opinions. The way she'd cancel plans with Vince when Beatrice called. The way she'd never quite defended him when her family made jokes about his blue-collar background. But Vince had wanted to believe in the family he'd never had. He'd wanted to give Jacob what he'd missed growing up. That one had been his mistake. The drive to the Parks family home in Millbrook took 4 hours through worsening weather. Vince had designed a new type of industrial valve that year, something his employer was filing patents for, something that could change his family's financial future. He'd wanted to share the news on Christmas, maybe finally earn some respect from the Parks family. Jacob chattered in the back seat about Santa Claus while Deanna texted with her sister. Millbrook was one of those dying small towns that refused to admit it. The Parks family lived in the biggest house on Maple Street, a Victorian that Beatrice maintained as a monument to when the Parks family had owned the now-shuttered furniture factory. Beatrice Parks ruled Millbrook's social circles the way she ruled her family, with an iron fist wrapped in passive aggression and Southern charm. "You're late," Beatrice announced as they arrived, not bothering to greet Jacob first. She was a tall woman who carried herself like minor royalty, her silver hair always perfectly styled, her clothes always just expensive enough to be noticed. "Traffic was bad with the weather," Vince said, helping Jacob out of his coat. "Excuses were always your specialty." Beatrice smiled like a knife. Come in. Chester and Kim are already here with their families." The house smelled like pine and cinnamon, decorated within an inch of its life. Chester Parks, Deanna's older brother, worked at the bank his father-in-law owned, a job he'd acquired through marriage rather than merit. He greeted them with a firm handshake that felt like a challenge. His wife Gabriella barely acknowledged Vince's existence. Kim Parks had married a local real estate developer named Travis Piper, and she'd never let anyone forget it. They had 2 daughters who Beatrice doted on while barely acknowledging Jacob. "Vince," Harold Parks said, appearing from his study. He was a softer man than his wife, worn down by decades of marriage. "Good to see you, son." "Harold, stop monopolizing him," Beatrice called out. "Vince, be a dear and bring in the rest of the luggage. The guest room is ready." The evening proceeded like every Parks family gathering. Beatrice held court, everyone else performed. Dinner was an exercise in subtle humiliation. Beatrice praised Chester's recent promotion, approved by his father-in-law. She gushed over Travis's new development project. She asked pointed questions about when Deanna might return to school, now that Jacob's older and Vince could manage him. Vince had learned not to engage. He focused on Jacob, making sure his son ate, laughing at his stories, being present in the way his own father had been before cancer took him. But he noticed things. The way Deanna laughed at her mother's barbs. The way she didn't redirect when Beatrice suggested Jacob was too shy or too sensitive. The way his wife had stopped being his partner somewhere along the way. After dinner, while the adults drank wine in the living room, Vince helped Jacob get ready for bed in the guest room. "Dad," Jacob asked, his small voice uncertain, "why doesn't Grandma like us?" The question hit Vince in the chest. "What makes you say that, buddy? She looks at us different than she looks at Emma and Sophie, Kim's daughters. Like we did something wrong." Vince pulled his son close. "Some people are just unhappy, Jake. It has nothing to do with you. You're perfect exactly as you are. Promise. Promise." After Jacob fell asleep, Vince returned downstairs. The conversation stopped when he entered. "We were just talking about tomorrow," Beatrice said sweetly. "I thought it would be fun for the kids to go to the Christmas festival in town. Kim and Gabriella are taking the girls." "Jake would love that," Vince said. "Oh, well, we thought maybe just the girls this time." Beatrice's smile was poisonous. "You know how Jacob can be. A bit much for crowds." "He's 5, Vince said evenly. "He's exactly how 5-year-olds are supposed to be." "Of course, dear. We just want everyone to have a good time." Deanna said nothing. She sat there, wine glass in hand, and said absolutely nothing while her mother excluded their son from a family event. That night, lying in the guest bed while Deanna slept or pretended to sleep beside him, Vince made a decision. After this Christmas, he was done pretending. He would take Jacob back home, file for divorce, and fight for custody. He'd give his son a life free from these people who treated them like an inconvenience. He had no idea that by the next evening, that plan would become far more urgent and far more permanent. Christmas Eve morning dawned gray and cold. Vince woke early, letting Deanna sleep, and took Jacob downstairs for breakfast. Beatrice was already in the kitchen, preparing her elaborate Christmas Eve dinner. "There's cereal in the pantry," she said without looking up. "I'm too busy to make breakfast." "No problem," Vince replied, finding a box of cornflakes. He poured a bowl for Jacob and sat with him at the kitchen table while Beatrice worked around them, her movements pointed and irritated. The rest of the family trickled down. Chester appeared in expensive loungewear, immediately helping himself to the good coffee Beatrice had made. Kim arrived with Travis and the girls, all of them dressed like a catalog ad. "So," Beatrice announced over lunch, "I've made a decision about this afternoon." Vince felt his shoulders tense. The Christmas festival is really more for the older children. Emma and Sophie are 9 and 7. They can appreciate it. Jacob is too young. He'd just slow everyone down and complain. "He won't complain," Vince said. "I'll take him myself if." "Nonsense. You should stay here and help Harold set up the dining room. Besides, I have a better idea." Beatrice's eyes glittered with something Vince couldn't quite read. "There's a wonderful new play area at that gas station on Route 40. Very modern, very safe. We can drop Jacob there for an hour or two while we take the girls to the festival. He'll have more fun there anyway." The room went silent. "You want to leave my 5-year-old son at a gas station," Vince said slowly, "while you take your granddaughters to a festival." "It's not just any gas station, Vince. It's one of those new travel plazas. They have supervised play areas now. Very common. It's 200 miles away. That's where Route 40 is." Beatrice waved a hand. "An hour and a half, maybe 2 hours there and back. We'll pick him up on the way home. He won't even notice." "Absolutely not." "Vince," Deanna said quietly. Too quietly. "Mom has a point. Jake doesn't do well in crowds anyway. He might be happier." "Are you insane?" Vince looked at his wife, really looked at her. "You want to leave our son at a gas station in another town while you go to a festival?" "It's not like we're abandoning him," Kim chimed in. "They have staff there. It's perfectly safe." "Then leave your daughters there," Vince shot back. "Don't be ridiculous," Gabriella sniffed. "Emma and Sophie are old enough to appreciate culture." Vince stood. "We're not doing this. Jake stays here with me, or we all go to the festival together, or none of us go." "You don't make the rules in this house," Beatrice said, her voice dropping into something cold and hard. "I do. And I've decided that Jacob will be happier at the play plaza." End of discussion. "Like hell it is." "Vince." Deanna grabbed his arm. "Can we talk?" "Privately." In the guest room, Deanna closed the door and turned to face him. "You're embarrassing me." "I'm embarrassing you?" "Your mother just suggested abandoning our son at a gas station." "She's not abandoning him. It's a supervised facility. And honestly, Vince, you're being dramatic. Mom's just trying to make sure everyone has a good time. Jake can be difficult in public." Vince stared at the woman he'd married. "Do you hear yourself? I hear you making everything about you, as usual. This is my family, Vince. My mother. My home. You could try being grateful that she's even trying to include Jake instead of fighting about everything. Including him by leaving him at a gas station 200 miles away. For 2 hours. Oh my God, Vince. You act like she's suggesting we leave him on the side of the road." The realization hit him like a punch. Deanna was serious. She actually saw nothing wrong with this. "I'm taking Jake and leaving," Vince said quietly. "Right now? Pack your things if you're coming with us. I'm not going anywhere. And neither is Jake. If you leave alone." Deanna's face was flushed. I'm sick of you trying to drive a wedge between me and my family. Mom was right about you from the start. And what did she say about me? That you'd try to isolate me. That you'd never be good enough. That you'd drag me down to your level instead of rising to mine. There it was. The truth that had always been there, hiding behind fake smiles and family dinners. Fine, Vince said. I'll make this easy for you. He walked out of the room, down the stairs, and found Jacob playing with toy cars in the living room. Hey buddy, want to go look at the lights around town? Just you and me. Yeah. Jacob jumped up. We'll be back in an hour, Vince told the room at large. Beatrice's smile was triumphant. She thought she'd won. They all did. Vince drove into town with Jacob, showing him Christmas lights, buying him hot chocolate, letting his son be happy and oblivious. All the while his mind raced. He couldn't leave Jacob here. But if he took Jacob and left without Deanna's permission, she could claim kidnapping. He needed to be smart about this. When they returned to the house, the family was preparing to leave for the festival. Chester was loading Kim's daughters into his SUV. Perfect timing, Beatrice said. We'll take Jacob now. Come here, sweetheart. Jacob looked at his father, confused. Where am I going? Just for a little ride, dear, Beatrice cooed. To a special place, just for you. I want to stay with Dad. Don't be difficult, Jacob. The adults have decided. Vince felt his control slipping. He had to choose right now, comply and know where they took his son, or fight and risk losing Jake in a custody battle he might not win. I'll come with him, Vince said. No need, Beatrice said firmly. Harold needs your help here. We'll have him back before dinner. Before Vince could respond, Deanna scooped up Jacob. Come on, baby. You're going to have so much fun. They loaded Jacob into the SUV. Through the window, Vince saw his son's confused face. He mouthed, I love you, and Jacob waved. Then they drove away. The next 4 hours were agony. Vince tried calling Deanna's phone repeatedly. No answer. He tried Kim's phone. Chester's. Nothing. Harold made excuses about helping with dinner preparation, but Vince could see the older man was uncomfortable. This isn't right, Vince said finally. Harold, you know this isn't right. Harold wouldn't meet his eyes. Beatrice knows what she's doing. She raised 3 children. And look how they turned out. That got Harold's attention. For a moment, something like backbone appeared in the older man's expression. Then Beatrice's influence won, and he turned away. At 7 p.m., Vince couldn't take it anymore. He got in his car and drove toward Route 40. He had no idea which gas station they'd chosen. There were dozens along that route. He called Deanna again and again. Finally, at 8 p.m., she answered. Where's my son? Jesus, Vince. Stop being so dramatic. He's fine. Where is he? A pause. Then, oh shit. What? Chester was supposed to pick him up. Hang on. He heard muffled conversation. Then Deanna came back, her voice uncertain. There might have been a miscommunication. What does that mean? We thought Chester went to get him, but Chester thought Mom was getting him, and Mom thought Kim. Vince hung up. He pulled over and searched for travel plazas on Route 40. There were 3 main ones. He called the first. No child matching Jacob's description. The second. Same answer. The third. Oh yes, the clerk said. Little boy about 5. Dark hair. He's been here a while. Getting pretty upset. Your wife dropped him off and said someone would be back in 2 hours. That was 7 hours ago, sir. Vince's vision went white. I'm coming. Don't let him out of your sight. I'm his father. I'm coming right now. The drive took 90 minutes through snow and ice. Every minute was an eternity. Every minute. Vince imagined what his 5-year-old son was feeling, abandoned in a strange place, waiting for his family to come back. His phone rang constantly. Deanna, Beatrice, Chester, Kim. He ignored them all. The travel plaza appeared like an oasis in the darkness. Vince barely parked before he was sprinting inside. The clerk saw him coming and pointed to a small play area behind the food court. Jacob sat on a plastic slide, his face tear-stained and blotchy, his little body shaking. When he saw Vince, he let out a wail that shattered something fundamental in Vince's chest. Daddy! Vince gathered his son into his arms, feeling the little body shake with sobs. I've got you. I've got you. You're safe now. I thought you forgot me. Jacob sobbed into Vince's shoulder. I thought you didn't want me anymore. Never. Never ever. I will always come for you. Always. The clerk approached cautiously. Sir, I need to tell you. The lady who dropped him off? She and the others? They were laughing when they left, laughing about how long it would take you to find him. Said it was a Christmas prank. Something died in Vince in that moment. Something that had been holding him to Millbrook, to his marriage, to the idea of family with the Parks clan. It died completely and was replaced by something cold and clear and absolutely certain. "Thank you for watching him," Vince said. "How much do I owe you?" "Nothing, sir. I'm sorry. That's not right what they did. That's not right at all." Vince carried Jacob to the car, buckled him into his seat, and drove. Not back to Millbrook. Not back to that house. He drove toward their home, the small house 4 hours away where he and Deanna and Jacob had lived, where his workshop was, where his patents and designs and future waited. His phone rang 89 times that night. He didn't answer once. By morning, they were home. By afternoon, Vince had changed the locks. By evening, he had withdrawn half their savings and opened a new account. By the end of the week, he had retained a divorce lawyer and filed for full custody. Deanna appeared on his doorstep 3 days after Christmas, furious and self-righteous. "You can't just take my son and disappear. I found him after 9 hours, Deanna. 9 hours of our 5-year-old son thinking his family abandoned him. As a prank. It wasn't. Mom didn't mean. Your mother left our son at a gas station 200 miles away and forgot about him for 9 hours. You helped her do it. You laughed about it. I didn't laugh. That was Kim and Chester. You didn't stop them. You didn't protect him. You didn't even answer your phone when I was trying to find our son." Deanna's face crumpled. "Vince, please. I made a mistake. We can fix this." "No." The word was final. "We can't. You chose your mother over our son. That's not something I can forgive or forget. You can't keep him from me. I'm not. You're welcome to supervised visitation once the divorce is finalized. But you and your family will never, ever hurt him again." The divorce took 8 months. Deanna fought for custody but couldn't explain to a judge why she'd left her son at a gas station or why she'd failed to pick him up for 9 hours. The Parks family hired expensive lawyers, but facts were facts. Vince's lawyer presented phone records, testimony from the gas station clerk, and a child psychologist's report detailing Jacob's trauma from the incident. Vince was awarded full custody. Deanna got supervised visits twice a month, which she attended for the first year before they became sporadic. Eventually, they stopped altogether. Vince sold the house and moved. He took a job with a different company, one that valued his engineering skills and his patents. He changed his number. He rebuilt his life around one central truth, protecting Jacob from ever feeling abandoned again. The years passed. Vince poured himself into being the father he'd had for those few precious years before his own dad died. He coached Jacob's soccer team. He helped with science projects. He taught his son to change oil and wire circuits and see the beauty in how things worked. He taught him that family wasn't about blood. It was about who showed up, who stayed, who loved you even when it was hard. Jacob thrived. He grew from a shy 5-year-old into a confident young man who asked questions and built things and looked at the world with curious, intelligent eyes. He rarely asked about his mother. When he did, Vince told him the truth in age-appropriate ways. Sometimes people make choices, and those choices have consequences, and it's okay to love someone while also protecting yourself from their choices. Meanwhile, Vince's career exploded. His valve design revolutionized industrial applications. He designed 3 more systems, each one more innovative than the last. He started his own consulting firm when Jacob turned 12. By the time Jacob was 16, Vince's company employed 40 people and held patents worth millions. He dated occasionally, but never seriously. His focus was Jacob, his work, and building a life that proved Beatrice Parks wrong about everything she'd ever said about him. He never contacted the Parks family, not once in 13 years. He occasionally wondered if Deanna had moved on, if Beatrice still ruled Millbrook like a petty tyrant, if Chester and Kim still orbited their mother's approval. But he never wondered enough to reach out. That changed on a Tuesday in November, 3 weeks before Jacob's 18th birthday. Vince was in his office when his assistant knocked. "Mr. Raymond? There's someone from CNN on the line. They want to interview you about the Arctic rescue system." Vince had designed a new emergency heating system that used minimal power, perfect for remote locations. When a research station in Alaska had lost power during a historic blizzard the previous month, his system had kept 14 scientists alive for 4 days until rescue arrived. The story had made national news, but Vince had avoided interviews. He didn't like publicity. Tell them no, thanks. I tried. She's persistent. Says this is a major human interest story. How your design saved lives. They want to feature you on their innovation segment. Vince sighed. Fine. Schedule it for next week. The interview happened on a Thursday. They filmed it at his company headquarters, showing his workshop, his designs, interviewing his employees. The reporter was thorough and fascinated by Vince's background. Single father, self-made engineer, innovator. She asked about his inspiration. My son, Vince said simply. Everything I do is about building a better world for him. And his mother? Not in the picture. The segment aired on Sunday evening. By Monday morning, Vince's phone had 89 missed calls. He recognized some of the numbers from 13 years ago, despite never saving them. Deanna, Beatrice, Chester, Kim, Harold. Numbers he'd blocked. Numbers that had apparently gotten his new information somehow. There were voicemails. He listened to the first one. Vince, it's Deanna. Her voice was older, but the same. I saw you on the news. I can't believe, you look so successful. And Jacob, they showed his picture. He's so big now. So handsome. I'd love to reconnect. Please call me back. Please. The second was Beatrice. Vince, this is Beatrice Parks. I saw your interview on CNN. Very impressive. I think it's time we put the past behind us, don't you? Jacob deserves to know his family. His real family. I expect a call back within the week. Chester. Hey man, it's Chester. Saw you on TV. Look, water under the bridge, right? I'm actually in business development now. Maybe we could partner on something. Call me. Kim. Vince, it's Kim. I just want you to know that what happened that Christmas was blown way out of proportion. We all made mistakes. But we're family. Jacob needs to know his cousins. We should talk. On and on. 89 calls. Not one of them acknowledged what they'd done. Not one of them apologized. Every single one of them wanted something, access to Jacob, access to Vince's success, absolution for their cruelty. Vince deleted them all. But they didn't stop. Over the next week, the calls continued. Messages on social media. Emails through his company website. They found his business address and sent letters. Beatrice even sent a fruit basket with a note. Family is forever. Let's put our differences aside. Jacob noticed. Of course he did. He was 17, smart as a whip, and he'd grown up knowing the broad strokes of why his mother's family wasn't in their lives. Dad, Jacob asked one evening, finding Vince in his home office, surrounded by unopened letters with Millbrook postmarks. Is everything okay? Your mother's family saw the CNN interview, Vince said. They want to reconnect. Jacob was quiet for a long moment. Do you want to? No. Good. Jacob sat down across from his father. Because I don't either. You've told me enough about them over the years. And I remember that gas station, Dad. I remember crying and being scared and thinking nobody was coming back for me. I remember you showing up and holding me and promising you'd always come for me. That's the only family I need. Vince felt his throat tighten. You're sure? Some kids would want to know their extended family. I know my family. It's you. It's Uncle Marco. Marco was Vince's business partner. It's Coach Stevens. It's the people who actually showed up for my life. Blood doesn't make someone family. Showing up does. You taught me that. Pride and love flooded through Vince. This young man, this incredible human he'd raised, this was proof that leaving Millbrook had been the right choice. But the Parks family wasn't giving up. 2 weeks later, Deanna showed up at Jacob's school. The principal called Vince immediately. Mr. Raymond, a woman claiming to be Jacob's mother, tried to check him out of school. We followed protocol and didn't release him, but she's causing a scene in the parking lot. Vince was there in 10 minutes. Deanna stood by a Mercedes SUV, older than he remembered but still carefully maintained. She looked like her mother now, that same sharp-edged elegance, that same entitled posture. Vince. She rushed toward him. Finally, they wouldn't let me see my own son. Because you're not on the approved list, Vince said coldly. You haven't been for 13 years. That's ridiculous. I'm his mother. You were his mother. Until you abandoned him at a gas station and laughed about it. I didn't laugh. God. Vince, are you ever going to let that go? It was 13 years ago. Let it go. Vince's voice was dangerously quiet. Deanna, you left our 5-year-old son alone and terrified for 9 hours. As a prank. You stood by while your family treated him like garbage. You chose them over him every single time. You don't get to let that go. I made mistakes. I was young. But I've changed, Vince. I've grown up. I want a chance to know my son. Then you should have fought for him 13 years ago. You should have chosen him on that Christmas Eve. You should have answered your phone when I was trying to find him. You should have protected him from your toxic family instead of joining them. Tears streamed down Deanna's face. Real or calculated, Vince didn't know and didn't care. Please let me see him. Just once. I saw him on TV, and I need him to know I love him. You don't love him. You love the idea of him. You love the idea that you're a mother to someone successful. But love? Love shows up. Love protects. Love puts the child first. You did none of those things. Let me talk to him. Let Jacob decide. Jacob is 17. He's brilliant and kind and everything you and your family tried to destroy. And he already decided. He doesn't want to see you. Deanna's face hardened. You turned him against me. No, you did that yourself. Now get off this property before I call the police for harassment. She left, but it wasn't over. 2 days later, Beatrice Parks herself appeared at Vince's office. His assistant buzzed him. Mr. Raymond, there's a Beatrice Parks here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she's insisting. Send her in, Vince said. It was time to end this. Beatrice entered like she owned the place, that imperious bearing unchanged by age. She was 70 now, her hair silver, her face lined, but her eyes still held that calculating coldness. Vince. She settled into a chair without being invited. You've done well for yourself. I'll admit, I'm impressed. What do you want, Beatrice? I want you to stop being petty and allow my daughter to see her son. Jacob is about to turn 18. He deserves to know his family before he's legally an adult. He knows his family. I'm his family. You're his father. But family is bigger than that. He has grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins. You've stolen 13 years from us, Vince. Don't you think that's enough punishment? Punishment? Vince laughed without humor. You think I left Millbrook to punish you? I left to protect my son from you. Oh, please. It was one mistake. It wasn't a mistake. Vince leaned forward. Mistakes are accidents. What you did was deliberate. You wanted to put me in my place. You wanted to show me that you controlled my family. You wanted to humiliate a 5-year-old child to win a power game with his father. That's not a mistake, Beatrice. That's cruelty. I never meant for him to be there that long. There was a miscommunication. You left him there on purpose. The miscommunication was about who had to deal with picking him up because none of you actually wanted to. The gas station clerk told me you and your daughters were laughing when you left. Laughing about how long it would take me to figure out where you dumped my son. For the first time, Beatrice looked uncomfortable. That was taken out of context. Was it? Because Jacob remembers too. He remembers crying alone in a strange place, thinking his family had abandoned him. He remembers his grandmother looking at him like he was an inconvenience. He remembers every single time you made him feel small and unwanted. And then he remembers me showing up, like I promised I always would. That's what he knows about family, Beatrice. The rest of you taught him what family isn't. You're being dramatic. I'm being a father. The way you should have been a mother and grandmother. But you were too busy playing Queen of Millbrook to care about a little boy's feelings. Beatrice stood, her facade cracking. You think you're better than us? You think your little engineering degree and your patents make you superior? I think being a decent human being makes me superior. And yes, Beatrice, by that measure, I am better than you. Jacob will figure out what you did eventually. He'll realize you kept him from his family out of spite. And when he does, he'll hate you for it. Jacob knows exactly what happened. I've never lied to him. And he's the one who doesn't want to see you. He made that choice himself. Because you know what? I raised him to think for himself, to value people who value him, and to walk away from toxicity even when it comes wrapped in family. Everything you taught me not to be, I taught him to avoid. You bastard. Get out of my office. And tell your family this is the last contact. If any of you approach Jacob again, if you show up at his school or contact him in any way, I will file harassment charges. I have the money for lawyers now, Beatrice. Really good lawyers. And I will bury you in legal fees until you understand what it means to actually face consequences for your actions. Beatrice's face was purple with rage, but she left. Vince thought that would be the end. It wasn't. A week later, Chester showed up at Vince's company. He bypassed the assistant and walked right into a design meeting. Vince, buddy, we need to talk. Vince excused himself and led Chester to a private conference room. You have 60 seconds. Look, I know Mom came at you hard. That's just her way. But I'm here as a brother-in-law, man to man. You made it, Vince. You're a success. Don't you think it's time to give back? Help out the family that gave you your start. The family that gave me my start, Vince repeated slowly. Well, yeah, Deanna supported you through college. The park's name opened doors for you in Millbrook. We invested in you, in a way. And now that you've made it, isn't it time to remember where you came from? Vince stared at Chester. Deanna had never supported him through college. He'd worked full-time while taking classes. The park's name had opened exactly 0 doors for him. If anything, Beatrice's reputation had made contractors and businesses wary of him and invested in him. They'd mocked his career, his ambitions, his background at every opportunity. Chester, you were there that Christmas. You helped plan leaving Jacob at that gas station. Chester shifted uncomfortably. That was Mom's idea. I just went along. Exactly. You went along with abandoning a 5-year-old child to score points with your mother. And now you want me to give you money. Not give. Invest. I have a business opportunity that could use someone with your capital and connections. Get out. Vince, come on. I said get out. You have 10 seconds before I have security remove you. Chester left, but not before saying, you're going to regret this. When Jacob finds out you refuse to help his family. Jacob knows. He knows everything. And he's the one who told me that people who show up are family. You never showed up for him, Chester. Not once. So you're not his family. You're just a man who helped traumatize a child and now wants money. The harassment continued for another 2 weeks. Kim showed up at Vince's gym. Harold sent letters claiming he'd known nothing about the gas station incident and had tried to stop it. A lie. Vince remembered Harold's uncomfortable silence. Deanna's social media was full of vague posts about fathers who alienate children from their mothers and the importance of forgiveness. Finally, Vince had had enough. He called his lawyer. I want a cease and desist sent to every member of the Parks family. Beatrice Parks, Harold Parks, Deanna Raymond, Chester Parks, Gabriella Parks, Kim Piper, Travis Piper. All of them. If they contact me or Jacob again, we pursue harassment charges. The letters went out. The harassment stopped. But Vince wasn't satisfied. 13 years of peace, and they'd shattered at the moment they thought they could gain something from him. 13 years of building a life for Jacob, and they wanted to swoop in and claim credit. Dad, Jacob found him in his workshop that weekend. You okay? You seem stressed. Just tired, buddy. It's them, isn't it? Mom's family. Vince nodded. Jacob sat on a stool, watching his father work on a new design. What did they want? Money mostly. Access to you. A piece of what we've built. What did you tell them? To leave us alone. Good. Jacob was quiet for a moment. You know what's funny? I used to wonder if you kept me from them because you were angry at Mom. But then I got older and you told me the whole story. And I realized you didn't keep me from them. You kept them from me. There's a difference. Vince looked at his son, nearly a man now, thoughtful and strong. That's exactly right. So why are they still bothering you? Because they don't understand people like us. They think everything has a price. That everyone can be bought or manipulated or guilted into giving them what they want. They're wrong. They are. Jacob stood. I have an idea. Hear me out. What Jacob proposed was bold and vindictive and absolutely perfect. 2 weeks later, on Jacob's 18th birthday, Vince hosted a massive celebration at a rented venue. He invited colleagues, friends, Jacob's teachers and coaches, business partners, and media contacts. It was a celebration of Jacob's accomplishments, his acceptance to MIT on a full scholarship, his own patent filing for a design improvement to one of Vince's systems, his growth into an exceptional young man. The guest list was 300 people, every important person in their lives. And Vince made sure the Parks family knew about it. He sent invitations to every single one of them, including a note. Jacob would like to address his extended family on his 18th birthday. Please attend. They showed up, all of them. Beatrice, Harold, Deanna, Chester, Gabriella, Kim, Travis. They arrived overdressed and entitled, expecting reconciliation or perhaps access to Vince's wealth and connections. The party was elegant. There was catered food, live music, speeches from Jacob's teachers praising his brilliance and character. Jacob himself gave a speech thanking his father for being the only parent I ever needed, the only family that mattered, and the man who taught me that love is a verb, not a noun. Then came the moment the Parks family had been waiting for. I know my mother's family is here tonight, Jacob said into the microphone. The room went quiet. And there's something I want to say to them publicly, because they deserve to hear it in front of people who actually matter to me. Beatrice smiled, clearly expecting gratitude or forgiveness. 13 years ago, on Christmas Eve, you left me at a gas station 200 miles from home. I was 5 years old. You did it as a prank, as a power play against my father, as a way to show him that you controlled my family. You left me there for 9 hours. When my father called frantically trying to find me, you didn't answer. You were too busy laughing about it with each other. The room was dead silent now. Vince saw media contacts pulling out phones, recording. I remember that day, Jacob continued, his voice steady and clear. I remember being scared. I remember thinking I'd done something wrong. I remember thinking my family didn't want me anymore. And then my dad showed up. He drove 90 minutes through a blizzard, and he scooped me up, and he promised me that he would always come for me. And you know what? He kept that promise. Every single day for 13 years, he kept that promise. Deanna had started crying. Beatrice's face was stone. You, Jacob looked directly at his mother, had a chance to be my parent. You chose your mother over your son. You chose cruelty over kindness. You didn't fight for me in the divorce. You stopped visiting. You disappeared from my life. And then you saw my father on TV, and suddenly you wanted back in. He turned to Beatrice. You taught me the most important lesson of my life, grandmother. You taught me that blood doesn't make family. That some people are toxic no matter how they're related to you. That walking away from cruelty isn't weakness, it's strength. Chester tried to stand. Jacob, that's not fair. Sit down, Uncle Chester. You don't get to talk. You helped plan it. You laughed about it. You all did. And now you want forgiveness? You want access to my life now that my father's successful? You want to claim credit for the man I've become? Jacob's voice hardened. You get nothing. You deserve nothing. I invited you here tonight, so I could tell you in front of everyone I care about. You are not my family. You are strangers who hurt a child and faced no real consequences. Until now. He pulled out a folder. This is a legal document. It's an official statement that I, Jacob Raymond, having reached my 18th birthday, am formally and permanently severing all ties with the Parks family. No contact, no claims, no relationship. And if any of you approach me or my father again, we will pursue legal action for harassment. We have the resources for it now. Test us. The room erupted. Media contacts were typing furiously. Guests were whispering. The Parks family looked shell-shocked. This party, Jacob finished, is a celebration of everything good in my life. And none of you are part of that. Security will escort you out now. Goodbye. Security, hired specifically for this purpose, moved in. The Parks family was ushered out amid flash photography and recording devices, their humiliation complete and public. As they left, Jacob's friends and teachers rallied around him, proud of his courage. Vince stood back, watching his son handle himself with grace and strength. Later, after the guests had left and it was just the two of them cleaning up, Jacob turned to his father. Was that too harsh? No, Vince said. That was perfect. That was exactly what they deserved. I thought about forgiving them. I really did. But then I realized forgiveness doesn't mean letting toxic people back into your life. It means not letting their toxicity control you. And I'm not controlled by them. I never have been. Because I had you. Vince pulled his son into a hug. I'm so proud of you. I learned from the best. The next day, the story went viral. Teen publicly disowns family who abandoned him as child, made headlines. The full video of Jacob's speech circulated on social media. Comments poured in overwhelmingly supporting Jacob and condemning the Parks family. Millbrook's residents, who had watched Beatrice Parks lord over their town for decades, suddenly saw her in a new light. The gas station incident was investigated by local reporters. The clerk who'd watched Jacob that night gave an interview confirming that Beatrice and her daughters had been laughing when they left a crying child alone. The social fallout was immediate. Beatrice Parks, who had ruled Millbrook society, became a pariah. Her friends distanced themselves. Her clubs asked her to step down. The local paper ran an editorial about child abandonment and the cruelty of pranks that traumatized children. Chester lost his position at the bank when his father-in-law saw the video and realized what kind of man his daughter had married. Kim's real estate business suffered as clients didn't want to work with someone who'd participated in child abandonment. Deanna's social media had to be deleted after the harassment became too much. Harold Parks filed for divorce, finally finding the backbone he'd lacked for 45 years. In his filing, he cited irreparable harm caused by spouse's actions toward grandchild and requested that half their assets go into a trust for Jacob, money Jacob promptly donated to children's charities. The Parks family empire crumbled. Everything Beatrice had spent decades building fell apart in a matter of weeks. The furniture factory legacy, the social position, the control over Millbrook, gone. 3 months later, Vince received one final letter from Beatrice Parks. It was short. "You win. I hope you're happy." Vince threw it away without responding. This had never been about winning. It had been about protecting his son, building a life, and proving that the best revenge wasn't getting even. It was living well and letting toxic people face the natural consequences of their actions. Jacob graduated high school as valedictorian. His speech mentioned his father 7 times and his absent family not at all. He went to MIT that fall, confident and whole, carrying none of the trauma that could have destroyed him. Vince continued his work, continued his success, continued being the father he'd promised to be that night at the gas station. And the Parks family? They faded into the obscurity they deserved. Their cruelty finally repaid not through Vince's vengeance, but through the simple act of the world seeing them for exactly what they were. Years later, when Jacob had children of his own, he would tell them about their grandfather, the man who drove through a blizzard to save him, who chose him over everything else, who taught him that love means showing up. He never mentioned the Parks family at all. They had become what they always should have been, nothing. And that was the greatest revenge of all. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.